to the whole Bitcoin thing, you know. And for those of us that have been listening all this time, you should feel special privy, because unfortunately I had not been recording. So yeah, everybody else, they missed the first 23 minutes. It's gone. Never happened. Anyway, I won't harp on myself too hard about that. I do have plenty of tabs open today, though. And one thing I saw, and it's a little bit off of the subject of cryptocurrencies. I mean, we could tie it in with with Mayweather's potential ICO, but I think that was just a bunch of fluff talk and not really anything to it. But you may or may not have been paying attention to the Mayweather developments, Mayweather-Conor McGregor development. And there's some really interesting things going on with regard to that fight. Apparently this dude, Barry something or other, was a promoter for the fight who was working with both camps. And apparently he went quote unquote off script at one of these events in Toronto, and basically blurted out that the whole fight was fixed and that it was all scripted and that boxing fans were going to be really disappointed. And so supposedly this happened in Toronto. And the guy was found 2 days later dead in Washington, D.C., I guess yesterday. So now, what to think of it? You know, we do live in the internet era, and we do live in a time where there is quote-unquote fake news. And I see evidence every day on Facebook that there is plenty of manipulation going on with regard to race relations and whatnot. And so I started to think, you know, maybe there's something to this, and then maybe there isn't anything to this. And so what made me think there might be something to it was not necessarily the information that I read, which a good deal of it was direct quotes. So I got to imagine that the event in Toronto actually happened. Whether or not it was the same guy that died in D.C., I'm not sure, but apparently it was. So now we've got two facts that are confirmable and supposedly have been confirmed by other people. So now, considering that this is a quote-unquote billion-dollar fight, I mean, a lot of money is riding on this thing. That's not even including all the betting that's going on. I'm sure that's way more. But so now it's tainted with the possibility, from what this guy said, that it's a fixed fight. And then the guy ends up dead 2 days later. Okay, now we verify both of those to the best that we can. But that means that we have to investigate things online, right? And I haven't tracked it down far enough to find out whether or not the guy actually died or whatever. But what I did find out that made me think there was any kind of reality to it whatsoever was the fact that I guess the New York Times reported the guy's death, and then they deleted the story, and then I went and tried to look it up on the Google, and I even tried looking it up on DuckDuckGo, and I used very, very specific words that if there were such a story floating around out there, you would imagine that there would be gigatons of data out there about it already. Unfortunately, there was one return. One return. Not even one return with like that little statement it usually tells you about being like duplicate returns and shit. No. The entire internet, one return. And that one return is the same exact story that's been put on Facebook and Twitter and all over social media. And so now what the fuck is this? I mean, it even shows the supposed New York Times article that was originally published in the article. So now, what the fuck is going on? What's more suspicious? I mean, now if the guy blurted that shit out and whatever, okay, fine. Fire the guy, whatever, blow it off. You know, unless he can actually produce some substantial evidence, like a tape recording of shit going on, then it's just hearsay, right? But no, the guy ends up dead. And not just him, the guy that was with him in his car. So now, that's kind of validation to me. I mean, you know, that's something you could have got away with back in, like, I don't know, maybe like the 80s or something, before there were CCTV cameras everywhere, before there was 24/7 fucking people watching these stories with little Google alerts in their fucking browsers and shit. Hey, come on now. We are not living in the 1950s anymore. We're not even living in the 1980s or even the 90s anymore. And it really weirds me out that these people don't seem to understand it. It's like that guy Seth, whatever his name is. They don't report on him in the media. But if this were say he were Sylvester Stallone, all right, and somebody executed Sylvester Stallone on a city street in plain view of approximately 20 CCTV cameras, what's the likelihood that the person that did it would still be walking around free right now? I mean, you know, say if it was like, what's that guy, John Lennon's attacker, I don't remember his name, but, you know, they figured out who he was, right? And I guess he may have turned himself in or something, I don't know. Point being that Seth, we don't know who killed him. There's plenty of CCTV cameras caught plenty of angles of the event in question. I have no idea. Right? Same thing with this guy that died, that the New York Times pulled the article about his death. I haven't heard anything about any CCTV camera footage of the scene. Or if there were any CCTV cameras, I bet you there were. I mean, you have to look at the reality of the kind of things, the kind of mundane things that are caught by CCTV cameras. Okay, when things like ATM robberies, okay, or not even ATM robberies, just the ATM cameras catch stuff in the background, you know, while people are trying to make their transactions and shit. And you see these things on YouTube. You know, there are millions of YouTube videos that are nothing but CCTV camera footage of like traffic cams and shit like that have caught all these weird and inexplicable events, right? But they didn't catch Seth Richards, or I think that's his last name is Richards. They didn't catch his killer. You know, they didn't catch this guy's killer, Barry's killer. You know, but they catch everything else. You know, a fucking unicorn ran across some big street in New York. You can be sure a goddamn CCTV camera caught that, but not Seth. Nope, he got gunned down in public, and no camera footage of that. Nope. Give me a fucking break. You know, I refuse to believe that I live in a society that is so monitored, and yet we seem to miss these things. You know, I mean, it's like I'm just beside myself that we can believe that sort of thing is happening. It's like, you know what? Let's get some fucking accountability, people. I mean, the guy wasn't just whistling Dixie. He was saying that the biggest prize fight in known history is fixed. And he died. I would think there'd be a lot more investigation on it. I mean, come on now. We're not talking about some penny ante fucking fight. We are talking about the most hyped fight in known history. I'm sure there are people. I'm sure more people know about this fucking fight than knew about Ali's fight. And there were people in Africa didn't even know what a fucking television was, knew about Ali's fight. So I can only imagine what it's like now, where people don't even know what the fucking internet is, or Facebook or whatever, and then they know all about this Conor McGregor Mayweather fight. There's going to be hundreds of billions of dollars bet on this fight, and someone raises the stink that it's possibly fixed, and he dies. I can't find shit about it on the internet. I mean, the internet returns have gotten a little bit thicker since this morning, but I still have to type it all out in Google, and so it's like, well, what the fuck? What are we trying to hide here, folks? What are we trying to hide? Is it true? Is it not true? If it's true, just scrap the plan. Put the guys in the fucking ring and let's roll with it. You've waited all this time. You know, things been pumped for about a year now, or so. Here, I'm looking it up in DuckDuckGo. I'm looking quotes on Barry Gibson, which is the guy, and then Warren's McGregor Mayweather fixed. You would expect that would return. Oh, okay. And getting a few more returns this time. But not many. I got one more return. And then a whole bunch of bullshit returns. Weird. It just weird. Anyway, enough of that bullshit. We of course are talking about cryptocurrencies. And like I said, this is just a jump off the deep end, but you know, it's something to pay attention to. I think, you know, that's not normal. It's like all the people that seem to die around Hillary Clinton. It's like a meme now. I find it on Facebook all the time. You know, if something, you know, like I'm part of some groups that are like hunting and fishing groups. And so there'll be a picture of some deer on the side of the road. You know, what did this deer know about Hillary Clinton? Come on, man. I mean, how much does that have to go on before you start to question why there doesn't seem to be any serious investigations concerning this person going on right now? I mean, really. And especially, you know, when I'm doing things like I'm reading HR 3364, and I can imagine how about 70% of all the commerce going on in the cryptosphere could be considered quote-unquote illicit finance, and how there's like jail sentences involved in that shit and whatever, and yet there's a meme about Hillary Clinton killing people that would potentially rat on her. Or actually, there are multiple memes about that. So, I feel a major disconnect here. You know, I mean, maybe I'm alone in that, but I would hope. And this is what bugs me the most about this. Okay, is that we've got a new president. Okay. And of all the people that I could imagine erupting things to where that shit stopped happening, where we stopped getting persecuted for being human beings and being Americans, and people that are actually committing like vile crimes that are like harming a lot of fucking people are being like dealt with. You know what I mean? If there were such a person that could be president during that would make something like that happen, I could imagine it being Trump. And yet he's getting all this resistance, and it's like, okay, I mean, the accusations of racism and whatnot, I'm like completely unfazed by that crap. I'm nonplussed by it. You're not winning my opinion by calling him a fucking racist and whatnot, because I listened to his statement and it didn't seem racist at all to me. So I don't know where this fucking equivocation is coming from, except for maybe like MSNBC or CNN or on some college campus somewhere. You know, and I gotta tell you, people underplay the mentality that is at our universities, and I mean, I've seen it firsthand. You know what I mean? I wouldn't give it any kind of credence if I hadn't seen it and experienced it firsthand. And I was at a party with a friend of mine, and he was getting ready to go to South Korea. So we imagined this is probably going to be the last time that we have these deep conversations that we normally do over beer and cigarettes and pot. And so, you know, we both get a beer and we both go outside to smoke independently, and invariably we'd start talking about shit, and then we'd start talking about politics. And, you know, we started like trying to get away from it, right? You know, it's like, okay, look, man, we've been chewing fucking air about this for like a half an hour. I like to go like meet people and shit. There's like 300 people here. None of them I know, except for maybe like 3 or 4 of them. You know, I'd like to go meet some people and shit. You know, if this conversation will be here in a few hours or whatever. So, you know, we'd split up or whatever, and we go socialize and whatnot. And then I go out with get another beer, go out and have another cigarette, and there my friend would be. We'd start talking again, and then next thing you know, we were talking about politics. And so, like, this happened like 3 or 4 times where we just, dude, come on now. We're not going to get back into it right now. No. And then after a while, we just gave up. We're just like, all right, whatever. It doesn't seem like anything is going for either one of us tonight. This is the most interesting thing going on. Let's chew some air about this. And so we were having this really big conversation, and it was mostly positive. You know, I mean, he's very more socialist kind of minded or whatnot, and that's cool. I don't have any like anger towards people that view things that way. I mean, hey, if you want to provide for other people and they're going to provide for you in that system, hey, that's cool. I just like to go, you know, stay out in the woods and just do my thing. Okay, just leave me alone. So we're having this conversation, and this girl comes up and intrudes in the conversation. And like we had like drawn a crowd by now. You know, I mean, it's like people were starting to expect us to start to talk about this shit because, you know, that's what we've been doing all night long. And so we're having this conversation, and it's political, economic. And this girl jumps in and starts talking about taxing the rich. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to tax the rich to pay for clothing and everything. Yeah, we're going to clothe everybody and everything off the money we get from the rich. I'm like, oh, what about when you run out of rich people? Huh? I'm like, well, wait a minute now. So, you know, I could either A, not do anything and hang out and just like leech off of what is being provided for me from the taxes that is being taken from the rich people, or I could try to be a rich person and then have most of what I make taken away from me to be given to people that don't do anything, to provide for people that don't want to do anything. Like, what's the motivation for me to invent something to make the money if I know that it's going to get taxed and taken away from me, and I'm going to have to fight for every fucking penny that I make between, the state, the banks, and all that other shit. But, I need to be taxed so that, everybody else can have housing and food and shoes. And, what's the motivation for me to not be one of the masses that just gets the free housing and the free food and the free shoes and the free clothing and free entertainment and free electricity? And, what's the motivation for me not to be one of them? And she just sat there for a moment. She's like, she didn't know how to answer it. The fact of the matter is there is no motivation then. And this is the thing that kills me the most about all this. I could tell this girl did not go without very many meals. Okay, during her lifetime, her time in college is probably the most hungry time of her life. Okay, that her parents busted their fucking asses and got themselves educated and earned their six-figure incomes and decided to put their little girl in a very, very nice university. And here she is promoting that they be taxed so that people that aren't doing anything could go to college too. There's just like no thinking going on here, It's like that girl I ran into the other day. Oh my God. And it freaks me out when people can't do like basic maths. I asked the girl for 2 gallons of gasoline. She knows the rate that they're sold at, and she cannot add 1 gallon and another gallon and come up with the amount to charge me. How much gas do you want? 2 gallons. Ah! That's like literally what happened. It scared me. It scares me. Shit. When I was 14, I got kind of shanghaied into running a galley on a sport boat. I served breakfast, lunch, and dinner to 60 people that I'd cooked myself. And I charged them all. And they paid me. And I gave them appropriate change for everything that they ordered from me. This person was about, I would say, 16, 17. Why she was running a cash register, I have no idea. She should have been out there jockeying pumps. But she couldn't add 266 and 266 together. Fucking sorry. I hate to rant on that stuff, but really, folks, that should scare the shit out of you. That somebody who is working at a cash register can't do the same math that a 6-year-old should know how to do that. That should scare the shit out of you. Anyway, on to cryptocurrency. And I caught this thing, and this is on itwire.com. I had to increase the size on this font. As you all know, I'm completely fucking blind. It's because those fuckers at jiu-jitsu keep choking off the oxygen in my eyeballs. Anyway, this one I thought it was kind of interesting because, well, it's interesting. It's cryptocurrency involved. New cryptocurrency miner malware infects Windows systems. And this was put out 22 August 2017 by Sam Varghese. And I would assume by Sam's name, No, I can't make that assumption because I know a Sam at Jiu-Jitsu is female. So, sexually ambiguous or gender ambiguous or... yeah, alright, whatever. Researchers at the security firm Trend Micro say they have found a new cryptocurrency miner that operates as fileless malware, attacking Windows systems by using the Eternal Blue exploit that powered the WannaCry ransomware in May. In a blog post that detailed the characteristics of the malware and the way in which it gained access to a system, Trend Micro said it had been affecting the Asia-Pacific region in July. The major countries affected were in Japan, Indonesia, Taiwan, Thailand, and India. Other countries in the region were only marginally affected. Fileless malware exists only in the memory of an infected system, making detection much more difficult. Trend Micro said the malware uses Windows management instrumentation, a core component of Windows that is used for daily management tasks, as its fileless persistence mechanism to enter a system. The Eternal Blue vulnerability was used. This exploit was developed by the NSA, but leaked on the web by a group known as the Shadow Brokers in April. Apart from being used in WannaCry, it was also used in a mass ransomware outbreak known variously as Petya ransomware that had already existed at the time, not Petya, Nyitnya, X-Peter, and GoldenEye that broke out in Europe in June and spread to other regions. Trend Micro said that the new malware was inserted as a backdoor on a Windows system, which then installed various WMI scripts. These scripts then connected to the attacker's command and control servers to obtain instructions and download the cryptocurrency miner malware. Oh, wow. And they give you a little flowchart too. The company advised system admins to restrict and disable WMI as needed to prevent this malware from infecting a system. Quote, "Not all machines require the WMI service. If a machine does not need access to WMI, disable it to eliminate the risk," Trend Micro said. Oh, hold on one moment, I gotta make an adjustment here. Microsoft also provides a tool that can trace WMI activity. SMB v1 can also be disabled to reduce the risk to users. Oh, I'm sorry, I kind of skipped over it here. Quote, "Microsoft provides a quick guide on how to stop WMI service completely." It also pointed out that the entry point for this malware was Eternal Blue, for which a patch had been available since March 2017. Quote, "However, there are still a lot of machines exposed to this vulnerability. Ensuring that the operating system, software, and other applications are dated with the latest patches deters threats from using security gaps as their doorways into systems and networks," Trend Micro said. Oh, man. And so the NSA gives us the gifts that keep on giving with this Eternal Blue business. And you know what pisses me off about Eternal Blue? They knew about the vulnerability and had an exploit for it for, I want to say it was like a decade, or for various variants of Windows for a very long time. And they either never bothered to notify Microsoft. Microsoft knew about it and was entirely complicit in its utilization of against its users, or some of both. I don't know. I can't tell. But it pisses me off that they let the vulnerability go unpatched for as long as they did. Whether it was the NSA, Microsoft, or both. I mean, I want to say that Microsoft had known about it for some time before bothering to patch it. And really, I don't think they did bother to do anything until it became apparent that the NSA had been hacked and all of the shit was going to be dumped. You know, and I'm sure they knew about that before they actually it was actually disseminated out to the open public that was what was going on in the background. But anyway, this is again, it's the gift that keeps on giving, man. I mean, one of these days, our intelligence agencies are going to learn to not do that shit. If you design evil software, there's a good possibility that it will be used on you. I mean, as a matter of fact, the military is doing something now, or the NSA or somebody was doing something now where they redirect malware back to the sending party, which I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm trying to figure out which tab it was that I had that open in, because apparently I had a few of them here that cheesed out on me. Oh, let's see, the American Eclipse. Yeah, you know, if you didn't see that, it was pretty neat. I don't think we're gonna see one, at least in the Pacific Northwest, like that for some time. Let's see here if I can figure out where that was. Anti-fascist, no. WikiLeaks dumps CA. That's one thing we're probably going to be talking about today. Okay, and that one possibly as well. Darn it. I do have good stuff in here that I wanted to talk about. Damn. It's what the problem with having multiple tabs is you end up having like a bunch that you haven't addressed that are like tucked away and you don't like see what they are. Anyway, I was looking at something with Dean Stockwell earlier too. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and kick into some music here for a moment. At least, I'll go ahead and do a music break. It's been a while. We haven't done one in quite some time. So let's go ahead and throw down some Ministry. I'm feeling the necessity for some blood. Some Rio Grande blood. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Static X with Cannibal. And, yeah, you know, I didn't get an opportunity to actually look for that thing. Shit. It's okay. We have plenty of other tabs, which we will be plowing through on the other side of this. So, one interesting development that, well, I thought it was interesting is this, and I haven't had an opportunity to really investigate into it, so I don't know like how dramatic it is, but I want to do myself a real big favor right up front and make sure that I'm getting it from the actual source instead of a source of a source of a source. It looks like it's the source. Alright, so we'll go with it. Bitcoin in space. Blockchain satellite receives first transaction, and this is by Cointelegraph 12 hours ago. Blockstream's blockchain satellite has forwarded its first transaction, the company's CEO Adam Back has confirmed on Twitter. Back was quoting Bitcoin VPS creator Groobles, whose satellite node successfully received blockchain transactions on a computer with networking disabled. And there's a little tweet here, and back via satellite, Bitcoin in space, blah, blah, blah. Last week, Blockstream announced it would use leased satellites to beam the Bitcoin blockchain all over the world.
Africa, Europe, South America, and North America are first regions where users of the company's beta can download a fully functional Bitcoin node. Blockstream has the goal of making Bitcoin accessible to people from countries with poor internet infrastructure and unstable currencies. The system is designed to guarantee a 64K bit per second connection, which provides adequate bandwidth to reliably maintain synchronization with the network with modest delay, according to BAC. Users require a 45cm satellite dish, for example TV satellite, and a personal computer or dedicated hardware such as a Raspberry Pi. The radio connection can be established through open source software such as GNU Radio. Making a transaction still requires an internet connection, but BAC is confident that SMS would be enough. According to BAC, Blockstream is going to release an API for developers and companies to send data via satellite for a small fee. Former Bitcoin Core developer Jeff Garzik had planned to launch a similar project, BitSat, in 2014 but suspended it. In a discussion on Reddit, he argued that Blockstream's satellite means centralization on company's version of the blockchain. It's Garzik's little thing here. It's cheap to write a check for another satellite provider to do a broadcast for you. It's a centralized data service with a centralized satellite provider and carries plenty of shutdown and censorship risk. It's also a great way to centralize everybody on Blockstream's version of the blockchain, as it appears that Blockstream are the only ones transmitting uplinking to the satellite. Huh. Well, I think that this is a really good thing. I mean, just the development of it, okay? Now, centralization concerns, those are legitimate, but no more so than, people creating services where they host versions of coins blockchains. I mean, arguably they could say substitute those blockchains with edited blockchains where their transactions didn't happen. Who's to say, right? Or maybe they could be coerced or cajoled or bribed into deleting certain other transactions in the blockchains. I mean, but that's a centralization concern. Now, the way to get around that is for you as a participant to host a copy of the fucking blockchain. I know, it's a pain in the ass, but you know what? Participation has its costs. I mean, if you're going to participate on that level, personally, I would suggest just getting a 1 or 2 terabyte drive and letting it occupy just that, and hosting a node. But that's the way around this shit. I guess it's because it's not brought forward too much in the memetics of the articles that you read in crypto media. But they don't talk about your participation in this shit and the differences that your participation in this shit can make. I mean, if you were just to dedicate some deprecated hardware to even to Verge, okay, or another lowball crypto, that makes a difference. Your hashing power is like a vote of confidence in that coin. You're willing to dedicate hashing power and electricity and hardware and bandwidth to the propagation of a coin. I mean, there's never been that kind of mechanism for us to participate directly in the economy of anything. I mean, it's short of being an entrepreneur and selling your own snake oil.
Short of that, we just haven't had that kind of participation. And I think that given the global reach of cryptocurrencies, that we can find enough kindred to maintain our own economies amongst one another. Or grow our own economies amongst one another. I think ultimately that is the promise of cryptocurrencies, that a localization of sorts can join into the global digital market. Where you could have a mom and pop where you're servicing your people on a very, very local level, but you could also have global interfaces where you're able to participate with, or commerce with the rest of the planet, 7 billion people, or as many people as they'll actually let into this, I think ultimately it's going to become too financially prohibitive to try and maintain the same kind of regulatory paradigms that we've had before. Just because the capabilities of these technologies, the technologies that we're playing around with, okay, the capabilities of them are so far beyond the regulatory regimes that we have now that it's like silly to even try and overlay one on top of the other. There's got to be a radical adjustment in the thought paradigm with regard to how we view markets. Because a global level economy has to be operating on a 24/7 basis. And, we have to some extent, but we always had these 16-hour breaks in our workday, right? Where we're down and so our machines are down. Well, that's no longer the case. Our machines can kind of run themselves, and so while we're down, our machines are up. I think the closer you can get yourself to that reality as far as your whole manufacturing techniques and stuff, the better. I try and view my garden in that way, where I view the plants in a little bit different way than most people view their plants. And most people look at them the way that they see it, like a shrubbery or something like that. And, they do specific things to encourage the good growth that they want, but they do so by trimming away growth that the plant has already dedicated energy into growing. And see, to me, that's like, it's your purview as a grower to do it, because, it's your plant, right? But, to me, the plant is telling you that, hey, man, if you train me right, this little branch that I kicked out right here, by the time it's harvest, if you arrange everything just right, that node will get enough exposure to the sun that the leaves will help me grow a really nice bud for you on it. So, just leave it. Just leave it. Just open me up, though. Open me up so that I can get enough sun on it. That's what the plant's telling me. And so, when I'm looking at one of my plants, man, she's got 3 main stalks with several stalks that, if I really wanted to, I could make clones out of every single one of them. They're that developed. Now, what I intend to do is flatten the bigger nodes to where the smaller nodes will grow straight erect. And then I'm going to flatten those to where the nodes that are growing off of them will go erect as well. And so I look forward to putting up some video footage of the results, because from the look of her, it's like she's already 3 steps ahead of me, she knows the program. She knows exactly what I'm going to do. And I know it's probably weird to hear somebody talk about plants like that, right? but it's a collaboration. You know, I mean, people envision plants as, you know, it's a plant. You know, you put it in the ground, you expose it to sun, you water it. It's all golden. No, man, it's a collaboration. You're working with the plants toward a goal. You know, and I think that's why a lot of people grow twigs and leaves. And I'm not trying to grow twigs and leaves. I'm trying to grow big fucking buds. Anyway, back on into crypto. So yeah, space, crypto and space. I think this is a good development. I'm kind of surprised with the transfer rate, 64 bits per second. That's not too bad. Or 64 kilobit, or 64,000 bits per second, because it's 64K. I wanted to say kilobits, but that's not the same. Yeah, it would be the same. So that kind of connection, but it's actually just bit, not kilobits. So it's just 64,000 bits. Not going to go there. Anyway, that level of connection, just the fact that they've done it, though. Okay, Blockstream has just thrown their hat into the ring. There is nothing saying that you cannot do this on your own, or somebody can't do this on their own, that we can't develop competition. I think that's like the key to it, you know. It's like there wasn't just, you know, in Bitcoin mining, if you go back in time and you look at the development of it, it didn't start off with any pools. It was all fucking mono mining. And then somebody got the bright idea, hey, you know what? If I take a bunch of these shit computers and I get them all into one pool, we could be one big miner, and we really increase our chances of getting some fucking blocks. So they made a pool, they set it up, bam. Then there was a mining pool. And everybody else looked at it and said, well, fuck, that's kind of an unfair advantage. We better, like, hurry up and make our own pool. Hey, everybody, come on over here and pool up with us so we can compete against these guys. And so the arms race has been going this entire fucking time. So, you know, just to, you know, assume that just because Blockstream was a first mover, it doesn't mean they're going to be the last mover. If it confers enough advantage to them, if it's making them enough money to bother doing it, everybody else is going to be looking at it and saying, can we do the same thing except cheaper and more competitive than Blockstream is? Let's see what their numbers look like over the last year, and see how we might be able to supplant them next year. I swear, man, it's like, and they don't talk in cryptocurrency news stories. They don't talk about it as, you know, maybe you could be that service that hooks up to another satellite provider and is able to broadcast the blockchain and receive from other people. And boom, it's off to the races, and we got another arms race. And I'm a big proponent of anything that puts stuff in the air, stuff in space, because as I see it, that's where our destiny is in space. It's not here on this fucking mud ball, you know. And that is going to require a global economy. Whether or not local or national or state or whatever economies continue to exist, it's going to require a global effort to get us the fuck off this mud ball. And so cryptocurrencies couldn't come at a better time. You know, if there were enough people with that in their mind, devoting enough monetary value to it, we could potentially displace war as the most profitable commercial venture of our time, because you know, it still seems to be it, but that's only because that's what the bankers want to invest in. I mean, they're starting to look at us, and I'm sure that they can see the potential for monopolization and pay gateways and all that other bullshit. But as we all know, the cat is out of the bag with regard to this technology. It's not like the average 12-year-old couldn't mint a fucking coin and upload it to a GitHub repository, start an IRC channel, start a Twitter start a Twitter account, start a Discord chan, start a Telegram chan. Oh my God! Next thing you know, he's got 100 or so people that are mining his fucking coin or whatever. But we can all be fucking Janet Yellen. That reality is out there. Currently we're all being the fucking NSA and releasing our variants of the malware that the NSA unfortunately disseminated out to the public. And I want to enunciate this idea that I have, and only because I see a greater potential for it now than ever. Just because some people are getting desperate out there, is that the dissemination of the baseware, Eternal Blue and whatnot, out to the public, I think it was at some level intentional. Okay, because it provides plausible deniability for government utilization of those software in the wild, in the open, on public people, on public services. Okay? It can always be said, oh shit, it was some 14-year-old in fucking Russia. Or it was some agent in New York, in North Korea. Some North Korean hacker implanted it. But the point being that the plausible deniability is out there now. And this is the 21st century. You do not have to be in any specific place at any specific time to be executing attacks, doing regular commerce, working in an office, any of that. That reality is not conveyed to us in things like television shows and shit like that. No. They've still got us living in the 1980s where we're driving to work at 7:30 in the morning and we get there by 8 o'clock and we clock out at 5:30. They've still got that mimetic for what the life of an average person consists of. And it's less and less aligning with the reality that many of the people around you are experiencing. It's like I had an opportunity to talk with the gentleman that runs the Bitcoin ATM, and he was a nice guy, really, honestly. He's very, very helpful, too, with regard to the utilization of the service. And I didn't harangue him about fees, although I probably should have because I had the opportunity. But the point being that I talked to him, and he experiences that same thing himself, where he's walking through like Walmart and whatnot, that he feels like he's walking through a museum. The realities of cryptocurrencies and the kind of utility that they could be bringing to us as money between two parties, from one party to another, from one private party to another private party, without a third party interdicting or involved in any way, shape, or form. The dissimilarity between the reality that's possible and the reality that we are experiencing is so extreme that when walking through Walmart or any of these other stores, you feel like you're walking through a fucking museum. This is how we used to do things. This isn't how we need to do things anymore. We can do things much more efficiently than this. I could have done all this fucking shopping if I really wanted to, if I was utilizing all of the 21st century, okay, my car could have been driving, and I could have done all the shopping on my fucking tablet. The shit could have been waiting for me by the time I pulled my vehicle into a parking lot stall. I had spent all of 30 fucking seconds closing the door for my vehicle, getting out, closing the door, walking to the store, grabbing my stuff, walking back. Because by the time I got to the door, the transaction would already have been cleared. There would have been at least one confirmation on the transaction. If I was using Verge, it would have the transaction. If I clicked send after I parked the vehicle, by the time I got to the front of Walmart, the transaction would have got its first confirmation, possibly its second if I had to stop for somebody to drive by. That's the reality that we could be living in right now. The technology is available right now. No, we got to live 1950 for a while. Because, for whatever reason, we're not willing to utilize this technology that's been around for 9 fucking years. Been fully utilizable globally that entire fucking time. No, we're going to live in 1950 for a little while longer. Because, we like general stores. We like that atmosphere. It's been a fixture of our reality for so long. We just, it's tradition, man. We just gotta, it's ritual. We gotta keep doing it because this is how we've always done it, right? So we just gotta keep doing it this way. Give me a fucking break. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and throw down a little bit of music here. Regenesis by Textures here on Coin Metal. And that was Anthrax with Got the Time. And that was off of Persistence of Time, arguably one of the most influential but least recognized albums of all time. I mean, excellent production value. A solid release all the way through. My apologies for those that are oft familiar with my rantings about that album, but it was a really pivotal point for me in my listening, because Cliff Burton had died, and Metallica was kind of like they hadn't released the Black album yet, and so there was like this fugue, this kind of like lull, and then I think even before Metallica came out with the Black Album, Seasons in the Abyss by Slayer came out. And that kind of helped get through too. But Persistence of Time, to me, it was like before that album, Anthrax was a little bit more playful, a little more self-effacing and stuff like that. Whereas I think State of Euphoria was a progression towards Persistence of Time, but I think Persistence of Time was a much more cohesive work, and even during the Bush era, that level of connectedness between the players has seemed to be a consistent theme, that they don't operate, with the lead guitarist out front and everybody in just a place. It's all a cohesive thing. It's like it wouldn't be complete without the other integral parts. And so, like I said, there are some bands out there that you feel like they're just kind of cobbled together. I mean, I don't know. That's just a sensation I get. I don't know if anybody else shares that, but I guess it's something you get from being in an area where a lot of the music is happening, and you kind of see multiple layers of it, Anyway, let's get back into some coin stuff. As a matter of fact, what was my next one here? Oh, not that one. Oh, here we go. And this was kind of surprising, because there are kind of conflicting directions going on with regard to the mentality of regulation of cryptocurrencies. We saw in HB or HR or whatever the fuck it is, HR 3364, a more provocative, a more antagonistic kind of perspective, and we find that a lot in state legislation, where they like with Kashit license, California's version of bit license, they seek to put somebody as like king of crypto in California, and that's so fucking dangerous. I mean, the wording of the bill allows for so many levels of abuse, and I mean, we touched on quite a few of them while we were reading the bill, and you can find that it's in my it's on my YouTube channel. I've read it at least twice. Kashit license. I read the original bill. I think I've read it 3 times, because they've amended it and shelved it. Like they've amended it and then brought it back up twice. So I did a live reading of it when it originally came out. I did a live reading of the second version, and I did a live reading of the third version, where they were so deceptive as to rename the bill before they represented it. But it did get reshelved for the moment. And that's a good thing for California, but the fact that it even exists and still holds an office in state government, I don't think that bodes well for California, or cryptocurrencies in California. Guy seems to be on a rampage to put somebody in charge of cryptocurrencies in California, and like I said, I don't think that would bode well, especially given the level, the amount of innovation that is originating in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, and the number of startups that are coming from that area. It's undeniable. You can't try and squelch it at this point. I mean, because if you do, you're going to end up cutting off a lot more revenue to yourself than you would trying to maintain the status quo. I mean, because evidence is shown. We've seen it. We've seen it in New York with New York's bit license. What a chilling effect that's had on innovation and people wanting to start up businesses there. From what I understand, the NYDFS is still fucking backlogged forever with people applying for fucking bit license. So, it's fucking useless, man. And we always knew it would be. And I hope at some point or another the economy gets to such a point where they're actually dependent on us making money in New York, and they'll probably have to change their tune with regard to cryptocurrencies and regulation in the state of New York. Anyway, let's get back to an article here. I got one on Cointelegraph, and let me do a quick scroll through to make sure this is actually one of their articles and not from somewhere else. And it does not appear to be from somewhere else. So this is by Joshua Althauser. U.S. lawmakers draft bill protecting cryptocurrencies from government interference. And this was authored supposedly 12 hours ago. Let me refresh that just to check and verify here. Doesn't hurt. Okay, it was actually authored August 20th, 2017. See? I never know how long I've had the tab open, so... Anyway, continuing. Several members of the U.S. Congress are drafting legislation that is intended to recognize certain digital currencies and protect them against interference from the federal government. The bill, which will provide protection to cryptocurrencies that comply with certain minimum requirements to prevent them from being used by those engaged in illegal business practices like drug traffickers and terrorists, is expected to be filed in September 2017, according to Daily Caller. Okay, so it is a reference to another article. It's fucking bastards. But we're gonna finish this article first. Based on a reliable source, at least one Republican senator and 2 Republican congressmen are working on the draft legislation. The legislators, however, have requested that should not be identified due to the sensitivity of the issue and the complexity of the proposed solution. Basic features of the bill. According to the source, the bill will focus on how to make digital currencies as part of the mainstream form of payments being used in the country, like the dollar. Among the proposals are to protect the virtual currencies against harassment from the federal government, prevent the currencies from being considered as a form of security or investment, and to protect the transactions using the currencies against taxation. Latest developments in cryptocurrency market. During trading on August 18, 2017, the price of the new digital currency Bitcoin Cash has increased by 40% in the past days. The most popular cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, meanwhile, sustained its phenomenal performance and is now valued at nearly $4,400, which it no longer is. The leading virtual currency has already posted an increase of more than 300% in 2017. However, the popularity of Bitcoin has been tainted with some controversies, including a claim that a young British model was kidnapped and auctioned off on the underground web market as a sex slave, with criminals asking payment in the form of Bitcoin because the digital currency is allegedly untraceable. Various other cybercrimes have been linked to Bitcoin in the past years, making it extremely important to lawmakers to establish policies and regulations in place for cryptocurrencies. No, it isn't. Motherfuckers! Look, we just traced a guy, we just nailed the guy, or you just nailed the guy, that was supposedly involved in moving proceeds from the Mt. Gox hack through BTCE in 2014. That was 3 years ago. And I'm sure a great deal of the effort consisted of using publicly available data from the fucking blockchain. I mean, really, folks, there is no need for an additional level of regulatory bureaucracy. What needs to happen is the current fucking people that are involved in law enforcement and structuring laws and whatnot need to be developing an interface with talking with us about how we work. And rather than trying to tell us how we do things, just listen to how we do things. The fact of the matter is there's never been a more accountable system than the Bitcoin blockchain. Even with all the manipulation and all the fuckery going on out there, transactions that happen on the chain are on the fucking chain. There's no deleting them or anything like that. So, if the funds were involved in some fucking criminal activity, it's involved in the history of the coins. Yeah. I don't understand what's so difficult here. I mean, now, of course, there are ways to anonymize your transactions, and not just using anonymous currencies like Verge. But there, you can use Bitcoin in such a way that it's uncertain as to who actually spent them. But the coins themselves, if you track them on the blockchain, you can find out exactly where they've been. But again, you can't necessarily determine who spent them. And who's the line of custody can be broken. And it doesn't really take too much effort to do that. But you have to be, doing that with that in mind. Point being that cryptocurrencies aren't any different than any other currency. I mean, really, the term sex slave. Why do you even have a term sex slave? Because the idea of selling people specifically for use as a sex slave is not an alien concept. Meaning it existed a lot longer than cryptocurrencies have. Meaning that transactions in such things as buying and selling sex slaves occurred in currencies other than digital currencies, other than cryptocurrencies. So to pin that fucking taint on cryptocurrencies is fallacious and stupid. I mean, the same thing can be said about gold. Gold has been exchanged for sex slaves. We've been transacting with the shit for about, 10,000 years now? So I'm sure somebody bought or sold a fucking sex slave for gold. But do you hear Peter Schiff talking about the fucking taint of sex slavery on gold? How about pot? Do you think anybody in the world has ever exchanged a volume of gold for a volume of pot? I can guarantee you it's fucking happened. Do you ever hear about the drug exchanges taking place with fucking gold? No! We've been transacting with this shit for 10,000 years. I guarantee you somebody has bought or sold pot with gold. So this idea that there's some sort of fucking social taint on fucking cryptocurrencies just because they've facilitated the purchase or sale of drugs or sex slaves or whatever is bullshit. I'm sick of fucking hearing about it. I mean, if it's been used as a means of monetary exchange, people have probably been bought and sold with the shit. Sorry. It's a fucking fact. We can pretend like it's only associated with cryptocurrencies, but that would be a fucking lie. And anybody with two brain cells to rub together should fucking know that. Matter of fact, I wish I knew who the authors of this fucking bill were, because I'd be trolling them on Twitter. I'd look it up on Google. I'd find out if anybody, if there's a documentation of somebody being sold for fucking gold. And hey, here we shouldn't use gold as a basis for our currency because it's been used in the exchange of slaves. Or it's been used to buy sex slaves. It's been used to buy drugs. So we shouldn't back our national currency on it. Give me a fucking break. And you know what? It'd probably be valued even higher. If you knew that somebody were to pay Britney Spears in Dogecoin to be able to have a date with her, would you value Dogecoin more or less? If Britney Spears took Dogecoin to go out on a date with her, I would pay thousands, I would pay millions of Dogecoin to go on a date with Britney Spears. But that's only if she, and you know that, so there again, you know, it's a matter of what's valued, you know, who else values it? What is it being exchanged for? What is it being used in the exchange of? You know, is it being used for the exchange of anything? Yeah, I mean, people think I'm crazy. I want to make a tackle shop online. As a matter of fact, I've got a URL, the perfect URL for it. I want to make a tackle shop online and only accept cryptocurrencies. No fiat. Just crypto. And like if I could send it to P.O. boxes, I would. You know, it's like, or if you wanted to receive it at another address or whatever, I would send it. You know, the technology is available for that to happen. Why shouldn't it? You know, certainly enhance my life. Anyway, let's go ahead and drop back down into a little bit of music. I'll be quick about it. Some nice, quick, fast stuff. And I'm feeling a little bit of clutch coming on. A shogun named Marcus here on Coin Metal. And that was Megadeth with Dystopia. I know, sometimes I run the songs a little bit long, and you know, it feels like that's all I'm doing here, but no, there's more to it. Anyway, let's see, where was I with regard to that? I wanted to get to that, but that's like a whole different can of worms than we've been going on tonight. And so we talked about U.S. lawmakers drafting a bill protecting cryptocurrencies, and now I'm kind of betwixt on this, honestly, because they talk about certain cryptocurrencies that are going to go out of their way to make sure that they're not being used for criminal activity. You know what? Fuck you. Just stay off of it. Just stay the fuck away from it. Don't draft your legislation. Let us be the way that we are, and basically try and get rid of the other legislation that sucks. And I do want to talk about one thing I have noticed. So, like all of the major coins listed here on Cointelegraph, they're all down right now. Bitcoin is down to 37.62. Bitcoin Cash is down to 601, but it's still pretty healthy. And Ethereum is down to 304. And these are all, I don't know, I guess Bitcoin Cash is a double-digit dip. Bitcoin, or SegWit Coin rather, if it stays SegWit Coin, I don't know. Anyway, it's only down 6%, but still, you know, going from 4,500 down to 3,700 looks interesting on the chart, but you know what? That's crypto for you, folks. Don't ever forget it. There is no safety. There is no safety. You keep wanting to think that there's some fucking security in that spike. There's no security in that spike. Look at the chart over the longer term. You know, I mean, this to me, this is a fucking buying opportunity. You know, I mean, shit, if I had money, I'd be throwing it at Bitcoin right now, or SegWit Coin, or Bitcoin Cash, or Ethereum right now, because it's not always going to be down. You know, you just have to look over the longer term to see that we're still on an uptrend. This is just a dip. And what do you do when it dips? You buy the dip. What's so hard to understand, folks? You know? And something to remember. You know, that there are always going to be interesting reactions to things before they happen. Supposedly, there is a forking going to happen on the 23rd, supposedly. And if in fact that does take place, this shift in prices, it'll be to anticipate this new volume of coins coming out onto the market. That's all it is. But what it'll mean for Segwit coin will be something very, very interesting, I'm sure. I think that in the longer term, I don't think that segregated witness coin is going to be the path that Bitcoin works out. I think in the longer term, Bitcoin Cash is more viable, only because it doesn't require you to use a third party, which, as I see it, Bitcoin or any other coin with segregated witness, where it's being utilized by, tier 2 solutions or whatever, that after a while the tier 2 solutions will be de facto processes, necessary integral parts of your Bitcoin transactions, or Segwit coin transactions rather. And so when that does happen, you will not be able to afford to use Bitcoin without a payment channel. And when that happens, the payment channels themselves will be able to hold up the transactions indefinitely. You will never know, or you may ultimately know, maybe 10 days later, the state of your funds, whether they actually went to who you intended them to go to, and what amount actually made it to the person that you'd intended to send it to. That'll all be back up in the air. And I don't think most people see that. And the people that do see it, it alarms me, because they don't bother to engage me. A lot of them will block me. They'll either put me on ignore, or they'll block me. I've had people shadow ban me for it, where I ask these questions, these very basic questions about the functions of Lightning Network and the potential of Lightning Network, and that's how they react to me. They don't even bother to try and debate me. No, they put me on shadow ban. I mean, what does that tell you about these people? They're not interested in discourse. They're not interested in conversation. They have an idea in mind, and that's what they want. And they are out to, I would say, go so far as to silence and censor people that question their perspective on this. And so it makes it look like their perspective is the dominant perspective, when in fact it's just the perspective that's being most discussed. It's something like this whole segregated witness business. There were plenty of other BIPs that addressed this issue of congestion in more reasonable ways that did not include third parties, and introducing third parties and trust into the Bitcoin system. But did you hear very much about them? No. I mean, you had to be hanging out in fucking Bitcoin Talk or a lot of the other things. But I mean, you weren't seeing it on Cointelegraph. You weren't seeing it on CoinDesk. These things weren't talked about. It was all Segwit and Lightning Network all day long, giving you the impression that that's all that exists. That's the scaling option. That is the upgrade option. Well, we've already proven that that's not the case. There is no quote-unquote the upgrade option. There is a upgrade option, if in fact it is an upgrade and not a devolvement back into trust, which I felt it was. But anyway, I digress. We started off with U.S. lawmakers drafting a bill. I don't think they have any business doing so. So that's my perspective on it. But there was... This is interesting. and this is on technocracy.news. IMF proposes central bank digital currencies to crush cryptocurrencies. And let's see, this was written August 11th, 2017, way behind the times, but I'm sure I didn't read it before, so we're going to go with it here. A day of reckoning is approaching for rogue forms of money like digital blockchain currencies when they run head into the global banking cartel. While the bitcoins of the world are proving a point, global technocrats have no intention of releasing their current hold on economic and monetary transformation. TN editor. And this is written by Richard Castelline. Sorry. And yeah, let's make this bigger. Yeah, there we go. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has recently pushed out a staff discussion note called, quote, FinTech and Financial Services Initial Considerations, which we will probably read on Wednesday if it's long enough, which provides a wealth of detail in how the organization takes view on the current rise of cryptocurrencies. The IMF paper focuses largely on the role DLT can play in cross-border payments and ends on the role that the organization feels they can play on a global scale to coordinate and regulate digital assets. Largely, it appears, by supporting the role of central banks in their quest for creating their own CBDCs. What the fuck is a CBDC? And assisting in designing the future regulatory environment. In other words, push current private cryptocurrencies into a subservient role and let central banks take control. Go fuck yourself. Quote, the introduction and potential proliferation of private virtual currencies might, in one view, threaten to erode the demand for central bank money and the transmission mechanism of monetary policy. A CBDC may forestall such private virtual currencies or regulate them to a secondary role in the payments system. This threat is not imminent, given the current transactions domain and limitations of existing private virtual currencies and their likely medium-term growth. Stability and safety considerations connected to this proliferation may, however, be relevant in the medium run, but could presumably be dealt with by other measures. The key findings include the following. Number 1. Suck a fucking dick. Die! Hate pop-ups. The key findings include the following. Number 1. Boundaries are blurring among intermediaries, markets, and new service providers. Number 2. Barriers to entry are changing, being lowered in some cases, but increased in others, especially if the emergence of large closed networks reduces opportunities for competition. Yeah, we basically tell you to fuck yourself. 3. Trust remains essential even as there is less reliance on traditional financial intermediaries and more on networks and new types of service providers. Number 4. Technologies may improve cross-border payments, including by offering better and cheaper services and lowering the cost of compliance with anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism, AML/CFT regulation. The international organization also calls for jurisdictions to revise rules governing ownership and contractual rights and obligations when it comes to digital assets. Quote, DLT records the transfer of ownership of, quote,
digital tokens, which are essentially units in a ledger. They can either have intrinsic value themselves, an intrinsic token like Bitcoin, or be digital representations of a physical or digital asset that exists outside the ledger, an asset-based token, which is bullshit, representing an interest in another asset such as securities. The legal status of a digital token and the legal effect of its transfer are not clear. Good, fuck you. For example, would the transfer of an asset-backed token, ergo representing a security, on a ledger transfer legal ownership of the security, or would registration outside the ledger, ergo in a corporate share registry, still be required? Absolutely not, you fucking idiots! Jurisdictions are trying to develop answers to these questions, but country practice varies. The resolution of these questions is crucial for the economy to function and will require more thought by policymakers. Absolutely, because you guys are fucking idiots. Or at least his perspective is very, very primitive. Primitive. Look, if it fucking happens on the blockchain, it's fucking happened. There is no other registry. There is no other jurisdiction. There is no resolution of questions required. The fucking funds have transferred ownership. Has the transaction cleared? How many confirmations have happened? After 6 confirmations, it's etched in fucking stone. It's occurred. There is no need to resolve these questions. This is damn near offensive, honestly. The IMF paper notes that, quote, in their current form, virtual currencies are not likely to be adequate stores of value given the volatility in their exchange rates to fiat money. That's created by you, you jackasses! This same volatility would undermine hub and spoke networks, as 2 foreign exchange rate conversions are needed when the token is acquired and when it is sold. Even if the virtual currency is held for very short periods, the transaction involves foreign exchange rate risk. FX risk could potentially be hedged, although costs could then rival those of correspondent bank transfers. Dude, this is complete and utter bullshit. Oh my god, somebody might make some money between the time that they purchase a cryptocurrency and they sell a cryptocurrency. Oh my god, we gotta fucking regulate some of that, you know? Somebody made a profit. Holy fuck. You know, if at the end of the year it qualifies as a profit and they decide not to report it, you actually have the blockchain. If they do, or if they're using a address that's associated with them, you know, either through their exchange account or a wallet or something like that, there's already records of all this bullshit. It's in this huge thing. It's called the blockchain. Download it. You got the NSA hub there in Utah, and just gigabytes worth of fucking storage capacity, and you're wanting to create a regulatory framework that is not needed. I mean, hollow out a couple of those hard drives that you got there in Utah, and load up the blockchain and track the transactions that way. Oh my god, you've just replaced an entire fucking arm of the government. And those fuckers, and you know what, beyond that, this is actually an article referred back to from another article. I hate that. I fucking hate that. I fucking hate that. I mean, really, dude, don't aggregate somebody else's article unless you're going to aggregate the entire fucking article. It's fucking bullshit. I mean, at least they use the same artwork and shit, but like they changed some of the other stuff on it. Anyway, continuing on,
Boundaries are blurring. Oh, that's the same. DLT workers. Digital tokens exist outside the ledger. Okay. The international organization also calls for jurisdictions to revise rules governing ownership and contractual rights and obligations when it comes to digital assets. Yeah, we already read that one. The IMF paper notes in their current form virtual. We already read that one. And the paper adds that central bank digital currency might resolve the coordination problem over new virtual currencies and could lead to even more technological innovation. Bullshit. But adds that it might allow the central bank to retain control of monetary policy and effectiveness in case privately issued virtual currencies started to gain significant ground. Quote, a DLT-based CBDC could be more secure and resilient than current settlement systems, which are exposed to single point of failure risk. Finally, by facilitating small value payments, it could boost the adoption and efficacy of the new decentralized service economy. However, CBDCs raise multiple potential costs and risks, such as managing the platform and its integrity, resolving scalability, and dealing with issues of privacy. Oh my goodness. Honey, that's the least of your worries. Let me tell you what happens to your CBDC if it ever intersects with quote-unquote privately issued cryptocurrencies. We have a term for it in crypto. It's called wrecked. You can look it up on Twitter. Hashtag REKT. Wrecked. My friend Rick Stoner likes to use that one a lot. Wrecked. That's what will happen to your central bank fucking digital currency. You will get fucking wrecked. And I mean, the biggest problem that they're going to have with a cryptocurrency issued by them is that it's going to reveal that they issue tokens by waving the magic wand. Now, we already have that in ICOs, specifically with Bancor, but there are others that had that capability. But, basically we're seeing central banks talking about going Ethereum ICO here token, ICO token, where they're going to be able to, wave the magic wand, add some zeros to the end of the balance sheet, and all will be well with the universe because they'll have their editable blockchain. Oh, those funds existed 10 years ago. There's no manipulation going on here. We have backing for this. Look at the blockchain. You may look at the one transaction that we show you. I mean, it's incredible to me. The fact of the matter is the only reason why the central banks have the influence that they do is because nobody knows how much money they actually have. Everybody trades their IOUs on the faith that they actually have collateral to make good on that IOU. Now, what happens when you start printing that on a public blockchain? A blockchain that will interface with publicly issued cryptocurrencies. And when I say publicly issued, that's I mean they talk about them being privately issued, which to some extent I guess they are, because ultimately they're released by an individual or a group of private individuals. But they are in fact publicly released, and that the code for a great many of them, is perfectly open to dissemination by the public and reorganization and reissuance by the public on publicly available depositories. So it changes the whole dynamic. You know, it's like with this whole fucking NSA thing with Eternal Blue. Okay, those tools have been disseminated to the public, and now they're erupting in multiple variants that are impacting us on a wide variety of ways. And so, looking back on this with regard to their perspective on how they're going to be able to interface with us in cryptocurrencies, it's fucking lunacy. It's fucking lunacy. You know, I've been talking about the GR Bufu. You know, I haven't mentioned it on the show, but I've hashtagged it. And I should probably hashtag this as GR Bufu class, because basically the idea is that there would be a massive rollback or a massive hacking of the system that would cripple both crypto and fiat currencies. But see, what has to happen first is that they have to be able to count tokens that have been waved into existence, fraudulently created, and have them traded for proof of work coins for the fraud to take its full impact. And I believe that segregated witness and lightning networks, they're all part of that. But that's just my quote unquote conspiratorial perspective. You know, it's like that deep shit. You know, whereas this is a more surface layer kind of thing. You know, where this is something that will impact the guy on the street. You know, where say an ICO like Bancor, you know, starts waving their magic wand, and that starts deprecating the value of the Ethereum base that it's sitting on top of. I mean, that'll just impact Ethereum. But like, what if those coins are counted on another blockchain and then counted as another coin or base equivalent for a coin because it has a known exchange rate at the time? And of course, that exchange rate will change, and probably very abruptly sometime in the future as some party or another sells out. But for a moment, it'll be assumed to be full. And then a bunch of other assumptions will be made that it is and continues to remain full. And will continue to remain full. And that'll carry on for about a year or two. And everybody will get real comfy with the situation. And then all of a sudden somebody will sell out. It's not full anymore. 8 a.m. will roll around and, you know, the fucking world economy will be collapsed. Because a bunch of fucking tokens that didn't represent anything, that were fabricated into existence out of nothing, were just sold out from under everybody, and a major flash crash ensued on Ethereum or Bitcoin or some shit like that, and basically be like that financial reset we see at the end of Fight Club. and the only thing that'll be left that'll be functional will be non-segregated witness proof of work coins and pre-existing proof of stake coins that didn't allow the commingling of segregated witness transactions onto their networks. I don't know. I could be talking pie in the sky, man, but I see these potentials, you know, and I mean, what better way to eliminate the trust in public / privately issued cryptocurrencies than to use them to nuke the global economy. Oh, we have to have some sort of regulatory body, and now we've nuked the global economy with them. But that'll be the clarion call. It'll be like, oh fuck, and even your most robust libertarian today will be saying, oh shit, we better hand this over to the central banks because they're the people that know how to handle this shit. Clearly we're children, and we can't be trusted with cryptocurrencies and being Janet Yellen. Give me a break. I don't think that's the way it'll shake out, honestly. I think that, as is the people that are involved in cryptocurrencies, even the ones with the pom-poms that are out there for more centralization in cryptocurrencies, I think in the longer term that even they, when they come back into the fray after 2 or 5 years, wherever they decide to bail out, but they'll see it. They'll see the indication that the crypto that they signed up for a decade before, that it still exists. And then they're going to want to get in on it. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen in multiple ways. You're going to see it. This resistance to cryptocurrencies and the way that they can change the reality that we live every day, it is too broad in scope and depth to be ignored. And the reality of it will be seen in our lifetimes. I have full confidence of that. I don't give a fuck if World War III happens. This shit isn't going away. I mean, we could lose electricity tomorrow. One of the first things that we reestablish after base communications with one another is going to be digital currency networks. That's my prediction. I believe that they'll be reestablished before a regular fiat currency standard will be functional. Whether it'll have segregated witness and lightning network, I don't think so, but whatever. I think that'll be too sophisticated to fit the necessity for the time. That we'll be more concerned with actually completing transactions, being able to move monetary value digitally. And now that we do have something in space, that's some sort of encouragement that whatever happens on the face of this little mud ball, that some segment of Bitcoin will be outside of the reach of it. Or at least that's my hope. But again, I don't think we've seen the last sentence with regard to sending cryptocurrencies into space. Bitcoin was the first on the scene with regard to cryptocurrencies, so of course it makes sense that their network should be the first in space. But do you really believe it'll be the last? If so, you haven't been here very long. I mean, that's a wonder that could happen next month. That Dash or Monero or somebody else could have a fully functional node up in space. Yeah. A fully functional master node with regard to Dash. But I mean, like I said, the likelihood that that'll be the last sentence on crypto in space, absolutely nil, folks. Absolutely nil. That was just the first rock in the pond. More kids will come along to the shoreline, pick up a rock, and cast it out there themselves. You can be assured of it. And so it's with that in mind that, looking at this DLT business, that the IMF is going to release their own fucking cryptocurrencies and that people are going to trust those cryptocurrencies more than the ones that they themselves are issuing to one another? Give me a fucking break. These people are the reasons why cryptocurrencies exist. Why the fuck would you trust their cryptocurrency more than the one that somebody you know? I have regular comms with the dev for Verge currency, so I mean I know he exists. You know, who will be the dev behind the CBDCs? Am I going to be able to Twitter with him? Am I going to be able to interface with him on IRC and other things? Am I going to be able to host a node for this IMF fund coin? I don't think so. And it's our participation that makes these things work. So it's with that in mind that I'm going to go ahead and close out this episode. And we will be back on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We might even chew on this IMF paper and get a better idea of exactly what it is they envision for their participation in cryptocurrencies being. But anyway, I want to close it out with The Last Dance. And until then, you will be able to find me in our Telegram room for Verge Currency. And also on Twitter and on Facebook under DJ Erock23. And I will be having this one up on my YouTube channel. I am one episode behind. I will rectify that very, very shortly. And, you know, because I've already edited up the audio. It's just a matter of putting it to video and getting that thing uploaded from Friday. And then I will be sure to have this one up previous to our Wednesday show. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. And I want you all, until Wednesday, I want you all to trade safe. I want you to do your homework. And I want you to watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else will do it for you. Here it is, Divide and Conquer, Last Dance from Prong, here on Coin Metal. Good night.